So I think right now we don't have quorum, correct? Great. Okay, so I guess we can hold off on any of the resolutions towards the end, just in case we do make quorum. If not, we can go through the rest of the agenda and then can sort of pick up everything next month when ideally we're all together. I think we still need to do public comment. I don't think that there was any submissions, correct, Sharon? No. Okay, great. Cool. Okay, so let's get into the agenda. And Renee, if you want to get started, maybe going over the patron visit survey results.
On the front page of my city library report as well, our findings in the survey, but I'm going to go into it in a little more detail and just let you know like how we might do results.
And sorry, just one second, Renee, is there any way that you can move the microphone a tiny bit closer, or could you sit a tiny bit closer to the microphone if you don't mind?
Is this better?
Yes,
okay.
Much better. Thanks.
All right, good. So after we did our strategic planning surveys earlier in the year, Dawn had the idea that we should maybe try to do some shorter surveys at different times of the year to get additional patron feedback from city patrons. So the basic idea I came up with was kind of like after you go to a store and they send you that email and it's like a few quick questions about your visit that day. So the idea was that for all of August and all of September, each branch and central would station like a page or a clerk or somebody right at the door for maybe a couple hours a week, kind of like depending on when their busier times are, to just ask patrons these 5 quick questions, and they're all multiple choice. It's how often do you visit the library? What was the primary reason for your visit today? How satisfied are you with services provided by the library? How would you rate the helpfulness and friendliness of the library staff? And then what additional services or resources would you like to see offered, which people could just write in. And then optional, what their age range was. So we launched the survey July 29th, and then we collected the final one September 30th. We got over 600 responses all across the city. That branch had the highest number of responses, followed by Beecham and then Pettit. 49% of responses were from adults, 32% from seniors. We got some feedback from children and teens, usually like as a part of, you know, if their mom took them to the library, it was like part of her survey, they would chime in. 57% indicated that they use the library either daily or weekly. The largest number of people use it at least once a week. 49% had come in on that visit to check out books or other materials. And that was pretty much in line with circulation numbers. So the branches that have the highest circulation, their patrons were most likely to say that their main reason for coming in was to check out books. Which didn't mean that the other patrons coming in weren't engaged in some sort of literacy activity. A lot of them said they came to the library to read a book or a magazine for some quiet time, to boost their digital literacy skills. So there were a lot of literacy activities going on inside the library, regardless of whether or not they were checking out materials. And a good number of them were also checking out digital materials too. So many patrons indicated that they use the space itself for a variety of reasons. So attending a program, having a group meeting. A lot of people, particularly from Beecham branch, indicated that they came to the library that day to bring a friend or a relative to show them the library and what it had to offer, which I thought was great. Many people used it as a place to study, do research. A lot of people said they work from home and they needed a place to do that, so they came to the library for that. A lot of people met with tutors or job coaches. So overall, 96% were very satisfied with what the library already offers. 90% were very satisfied with the help they got from the staff. Many patrons in the free form question about what additional services they wanted. Many patrons had asked for, particular books, more manga, more large print, particular services, particular facilities, things that they wanted to see, but by far the most requested things were more programs for all ages. They already loved what we do and they just wanted more of it. A lot of times they wanted it at different times, so like more evening, weekend programs, so they could work around their schedules. More after school stuff. A lot of patrons really saw the library as a true community place. Their ideas, like they were able to envision the space being used for a lot more, like some people said. Informal therapy sessions, cookouts, upskilling workshops, health and wellness activities. Some people wanted more comfortable seating or like that we would provide coffee and snacks, so they really saw it as a place to come and like.
It's like Barnes and Noble.
Without the first
Cookouts, really?
Yeah, I thought that was.
I was waiting until I heard the cookout.
So we got some interesting suggestions. So we certainly don't want all this information we've gathered to go to waste. One of the potential ways I can see using it, since people want more programs, is to maybe hire a couple of part-time librarians that can work those evening, weekend hours and kind of be like floater librarians, so they'll have like a menu of programs that they offer, and then any branch can kind of book them and they can go out and do the programs, and that might help us increase our programming at different times. Maybe we could get people who have a day job but want to kind of do something fun in the evening. Next year, we didn't really gather information from the community center satellite library, so I want to include them more next year. And then potentially we might change up the questions just depending on, what happens between now and then, what our strategic plan says, if there's different things we want to measure. But as a basic survey, the questions worked pretty well for this year, so I'm pretty happy with the results.
So the only thing preventing us from doing more evening or weekend hours is budget, right? I mean, we don't need to seek permission from anybody. It's library space owned by the county, right, Mark? So we're limited to the budget.
Yeah, to increase our open hours, you mean?
Yes.
Well, would we need to increase our open hours or just change like where the programs are scheduled?
I think potentially, there was feedback in both cases. Some
Okay.
people wanted increased open hours, but I think as a first step, it would be a good idea to maybe just utilize those evening, weekend hours we have a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then see, if that helps, or if we do need to like have more branches open on Sunday or whatever, we can look into that.
Do we do any,
I think
do we have any data collection on when people come in the evenings versus during the day? Like, do we have a sense for that?
We collect that data. We haven't, to my knowledge, I don't think we've analyzed it, but we do have, we get visitor counts and they're hourly, so we can definitely get that information together.
It might be interesting to look at just relative to Christina's question on, like, if there are a bunch of people coming to the library already in the evenings, then maybe it's great to have the programs available. If there's no one coming, then maybe it's a good draw, but it could be a good chance to pilot, like, does offering more programs bring people more out, or those sorts of
Heavens for what.
Sorry, Ed, I think I cut you off.
Sam, we have, I think we have a quorum, right? We need 5 for quorum? Since
Thanks.
we have 9 board members, we need 5, right?
It's out of the total possible 11.
We have 11, but
out of 11.
Well-
Oh, okay,
There's 11 seats.
we need one more. Oh, well,
No, we need
We'll
two
see if
more.
anybody.
no, okay, 3,
3, 4.
4, 5, we have 5.
Yeah, 6, yeah. Maria's up there.
No, but they can't vote. You
Yeah,
can't
but
vote.
we
they
don't
have to be
count.
person. Well, you do count, but you just don't count towards the vote.
It's easy for you to say. Okay.
Well,
so
let's
we
see
don't have-
what happens by end of, yeah, but we can keep on going through the agenda. So
Can I interrupt real quick? Is it in the bylaws that people that are on the screen cannot vote? And why wouldn't, since the world moved on with video conferencing and all that, why wouldn't we change our bylaws to allow them to vote?
part of open meetings law, it's not something that we sort of have control over. It's just part of open
It
meetings
was
law.
allowed- It was allowed during COVID.
That's what I'm just
And then
wondering.
it sunset,
And then, okay,
and here we are.
but I'm saying
Yeah.
as the world moves on with all of that, why?
We're
would-
stuck in the past.
Why should we keep
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
It actually does allow for more access to meetings by being able to be on Zoom, because I wouldn't be able to be here otherwise, but. Well, I guess just to continue on with Renee's presentation, Ed, I think you were saying something, or Mary maybe as well. Any other questions?
Thank you for the information.
Mhm.
It's helpful. I just would want to make sure that oftentimes people say more and more and more programs, but I would hate for the staff to be doing more and more and more if we, balancing that with attendance at particular times. And what type, sounds like food is big.
Always popular.
Yeah,
I'll get a card outside.
yeah.
I'd
Do we-
like to suggest that consider some, at least ask the branches, if any of the branch managers want to suggest a time, like an evening, evening or Sunday afternoon or something that they think would be helpful, and then I think we should cost it out.
Agree.
Thank you.
Renee, do we plan to do this more, these kind of surveys more?
Yes, definitely at least once a year, around the same time, this time period worked pretty well, so, but we could do them. And we do some other surveys at different times. We've done some other communication surveys throughout the year. Like database usage and ebook usage and things like that, but these type of surveys, hopefully at least once a year.
And then based on your participation with the strategic planning work, does this tell you anything, made you think differently about any of the conversations that we've had, or does it, resonate and just sort of reinforce what we've already been talking about?
I think it does in a lot of ways. Part of the strategic plan, we want to focus on outreach, which helps us hopefully bring people in the door and come to those programs. So I think that's a big part of it. So, yeah, I think it kind of like reinforces what we're already working on.
Any other questions for Renee? I think everybody generally in the group would have already seen this, but it would be great to circulate the results just to the strategic planning group as well, just so that we can, it'd be good to use this as just a thing to talk through during the retreat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to pre-reads. I guess first, any questions that folks have on any of the materials that were sent around?
Van in service,
regarding the event, I was out last week, but I did get a call that they're ready to drop it off, so they're in talks with WEP to arrange a date. I'm expecting it this week sometime. I talked to Jesse, but Jesse in touch with the guy at WEP. So I'm waiting to hear what the delivery date is.
If there's a chance for a photo op with the county executive, I'd suggest we use it.
We gotta get it wrapped first.
Say it again,
We have to get it wrapped first.
well, when it's ready. Yeah.
Renee, I know Dawn isn't here, but anything from the executive director's report that you want to call out?
The only thing I wanted to mention is, we got a donation of, tablets from the Rothenberg Foundation, which we just distributed to all the branches, and they have a special program on there that helps, children learn American Sign Language. So we're just in the process of, getting out some publicity on that. Figuring out how we're gonna, they'll circulate in-house, so kind of figuring out those details. But excited to have them.
That's a great move. I didn't know that the ASL was second only to Spanish as the next language in the United States.
Oh, yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yeah, that we, he got in touch with us, Martin Rothenberg got in touch with us and said, we have all these tablets we want to give you, and it's fantastic.
Years ago, I was at a rededication of the children's space at White Branch. Probably 15, 20 years ago, but the Rothenberg family had given money to have renovated.
Oh, yeah.
It was probably the parents of the person who dealt with. She grew up on the north side, the wife, so she was White Branch, wanted to make a contribution, and it ended up with a great space. I guess we've touched since, but. Oh. The book fight, did you want to mention the book fight?
Oh, I wasn't at the lecture last night, but I heard it was on stage.
It wasn't on
Oh,
stage,
on
it was in the
stage.
lobby.
Oh, okay.
And it was wonderfully received. I mean, I think a lot of people were coming up and looking at it, so it was great.
It looks a little like the good humor. Like, right?
Yeah, I got offered a couple different flavors. If I had, gelato, whatever, I was walking it. No, I didn't drive it.
Too much Joanne.
Yeah.
And Yona brought the umbrella, so it was in full, full display. It was
Cool.
fantastic, so.
How was the last night, the presentation?
It was great. It was excellent. She did an amazing job. She
Yeah.
told a great library story about how she'd stuttered as a child all the way up to her 20s. And that a librarian in her school kind of helped her through that whole process, and it was dramatic. I love when they have these little gems of how libraries impact our lives. I mean, it had some really beautiful stories. But yeah, she was wonderfully received. Her husband, David, traveled with her, and he recently was on Jeopardy, so he was just as popular as she was in the audience. So they were both lovely, and dropped them at the airport this morning, and it was great, really.
What was the husband's name?
David,
Because we were recording at home and I'm a dork for that stuff, so I gotta
he
look
was
the name.
nice. He did.
3
great.
nights in a row?
I
Yeah,
think like it's David Erb, maybe.
I'm gonna have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Any other questions on any of the pre-reads, or I guess, again, obviously, as always, thanks everybody for submitting the reports. They're interesting to read through. If there's anybody who wants to call out anything specific from any of the pre-reads that you want to call attention to, that'd be great as well. Okay. Mark, I'm wondering, so budget officially passed, which is great. Congrats, everybody. Maybe if you could just give a couple of highlights on sort of what we're looking towards as we end the year, and then also, what the budget looks like overall for next year as well. I know that we've gone over it a couple of times, but just as a reminder.
Look thrilled, man.
Well, I think I handed out last meeting, the executive round of the budget, and that's what they adopted. So that is our adopted budget, the budget I handed out last month. And Dawn, I believe, sent an email to all of you kind of highlighting what the main additions were. So we've got 3 new librarian positions, one at the full system and a couple of branches, I believe.
Do you move a little closer to the microphone, please, Mark?
I can hear from,
Okay.
yeah.
And also we've had almost like 190 in additional funding to address some facilities improvements that are needed at the branches. So those are the 2 main additions, like 189,000 in additions for the maintenance and repair. And we add 171,000 to cover those 3 librarian positions. Then we also got 52,000 in additional funding for library books and material to help offset the increased costs of digital material. And we've gotten some extra programming supply funding. So a lot of the branches do programming in the summer where they bring in performers and what have you, and those costs have been rising. So we've gotten some extra money to fund those as well. Some of our other asks we're going to seek at year end. We're asking for another vehicle. And we're seeking some additional funding for some staff PCs to be replaced. We did a replacement of all the public PCs, so now Dane's group is looking to do a lot of staff PC replacements and bring those up to speed. So we're excited. We have no reason to believe we won't get that as well. And as it relates to current year budget, things are going as planned pretty much. If you look at it, the only outlier basically is your interdepartmentals. They usually fill those in toward the end of the year anyway. And our travel training, we have not encumbered funding for the NILA conference, so that'll be a big chunk of this remaining money as well. So I think we're looking pretty good as it relates to this year's budget and next year's budget. Any questions about the adopted budget? Feel like I talk about it so much, I don't want to put people to sleep like I do Becky.
It is the most important thing that we talk about. So I guess the question is, it's awesome to have the positions open up. Do we feel like we're in a good position to fill them quickly? And that may not be a question for you, Mark, but I guess Renee or others, are we in good shape to fill those?
Absolutely. Yep. 2 of them are teen positions. One of my goals is to try and bring back more teen librarian positions to the branches. Because wonderful children's librarians, we have wonderful adult services librarians, then we have part-time LAs that work with teens, but I'd really like to see more full-time people focusing on the teens. So we'll have a new teen position at Beecham and one at White, and then an outreach position to help. Our outreach coordinator, Maggie, does a wonderful job and could use an extra hand, I think. So and we are pretty much ready, in January to go ahead and canvass the list and start filling those.
That's great.
Sam,
Any
I'm
other?
available.
I have
What,
that
sorry,
for
say it again.
How big is the list?
The list is not very big. The lists have been getting shorter and shorter over the years, but there is a new New York State initiative called New York Health.
Yep.
So,
Very well.
yeah, okay, good.
We use it at the 911.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So our librarian 1 and 2 positions will be part of that. So the
Explain
one
it a
list,
little bit.
it's an emergency measure to put the tests on pause for a year so that people can get those jobs by just applying without having to do the test. So,
You don't need to use the civil service. in that.
and I think it's great. I think it's gonna help. And I just think a lot of people fill these jobs quickly. So our clerk 1 and 2 and our librarian 1 and 2 are on the list for that. But we do have a current librarian 1 list that I think expires in April or May. So the process will be that we continue to canvass that, and if we don't get enough response, we'll just move to advertise.
I heard the Help Act is extended till the end of 25, is that your understanding?
That, I think so, yeah. And then it may be extended further, you know.
Depending on.
Any other questions for Mark or on any of the pre-reads? I'll just give quick update on my my report, and that can segue into the update on the strategic plan. So I'll skip the first one because it's about strategic planning, but the other ones are, so first, board composition. We know there's one upcoming board seat that's going to be vacant. Christina's rolling off, and so been in touch with Brian about getting Christina's seat filled as soon as possible. They're aware of it, and then also specifically of a need to have someone with similar type of background so that we can fill treasurer seat as we've worked through our finance committee. All the different things to pay attention to. It's just critical that we have someone with the point of view there, and so hopeful that happens soon. But just to keep you all up to date there, if you have ways to remind folks in the office there, feel free. We're also sending some official messaging as well. So that's board composition. Policies we'll go over next meeting, and then just did a short write-up on some of the generative AI stuff that I've been monitoring, both from a things that are cool perspective, and then also some policy to pay attention to as well, and then some specific use cases that public libraries are doing. So I know, Renee, you've been focused on that, Dane's been focused on that, and so just feel like it's a thing to continue to monitor. I can go to strategic planning next, but any questions or anything for me? Okay. And then the last thing, so we have a strategic planning meeting tomorrow, the last one before our retreat, which is on October 26th at Hazard Branch. And so that will be an opportunity really for the whole board to hear about all the work that we've been doing over the last, I guess it's 9 months at this point. I think we've come a really long way. From a high level, we are talking about, as Renee said, we're doing a lot of things really well, and we want to keep on doing them well. We know that people come to the libraries to check out books, to get other sort of resources, to come to programs, and we do that generally very well. And so we should just continue and not lose track of that, but also find ways that we can expand on opportunity. And I think a lot of that comes, we've heard over and over, like there's room for improvement around communication with staff, with people who come to the library, certainly people who do not come to the libraries, and sort of understanding what they are, what the reasons are. And so finding ways to, just improve and expand those kind of opportunities. Obviously, some of that comes with questions around funding. And so really prioritizing that too, in a variety of different ways. Outreach and partnerships, there's so many different good programs that exist in the county already, from different nonprofits, other kind of organizations that exist. And so we've had a lot of discussions over like, where does it make sense for OCPL or certain branches or certain parts of the organization to lead versus partner, versus just get more involved overall. And then bolstering leadership. And so that comes from how we think about building a diverse staff for the system itself, and then also for the board as well. Certainly lots of things for us to think about as a board in terms of our own membership, how we engage more, how, you know, we are more accessible, and also some sort of like nuts and bolts stuff, like how do we have you know, good documentation of the work that we're doing. And so that's kind of what we'll go over. Obviously, you know, room to think about how we actually action on those things. But right now, I think it's just really like what are our priorities and how are we going to choose, you know, what to focus on and what not to. So that's from my perspective. We'll talk a lot more about that during the retreat, but obviously open to any questions. And Ed, Mary, you all have been involved as well. So if there's anything else, and staff as well, if there's anything else that you want to add there, please feel free.
Just to add that it's, for me as a new board member, it's been a great learning experience to be a part of the strategic team. I really look forward to the retreat and just having that opportunity in person to dialogue with the staff about what the different pathways are, and then when we're getting into the point of drilling down to, you know, metrics and how we're actually going to implement things, staff's going to implement things, and what's realistic. And yeah, so I think it's been a great process, but I think coming together and really realistically what's doable, and it's just amazing to me what's going on already, and so not to just keep adding more and more and more. Discerning what's doable and reasonable.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So, you know, looking forward to having that discussion with you all. And I think we're at a point now where we're sort of ready to put the finishing touches on the plan and then really get to work. And, you know, there's so many opportunities, Mary, like you said, to just keep on doing the good stuff. And then where it makes sense to invest more, do that. And I think, again, even reflective of Renee's survey, it's awesome to get that many pieces of feedback. Obviously, though, those are people who are coming to a branch, and one reflective of, I guess, Mark, what you said, there's increased funding in digital assets. And so people, you know, engage with the library in different ways. And then we also know through some of the surveys that we've done that there are a lot of people who don't. And so opportunity to think about how we get them through the doors or sort of engaging in some way. So excited to work on that and obviously enable staff to do what you all do best. So I think, yeah, anything else there?
Sam, I sent you something to consider for tomorrow because I can't be there. I had said I would reach out to Boston Public. And I think as a strategic plan for our library, I would love to see us incorporate some of that. And, you know, we've already connected with City School District, the head of libraries. But according to Boston, they're doing much more with school librarians. And it's something we have to think about for the future.
Yes.
I don't mean.
Yeah, I think
books. Anyway. A couple of pages too.
Yeah, I agree completely, Ed, and I think that's a good thing to talk through. And again, this probably comes down a little bit to what are the things that we lead? What are the things that we collaborate on? Where, where are the things that we're getting? So yeah, so that is yeah, I think that's great. Thank you for bringing it up. We can certainly talk about it tomorrow. Okay. So since we don't have quorum, I think we can skip the resolutions for today, which means that we're through the agenda. Anything else that we want to talk through before we adjourn?
Yeah, do we have a full house for the retreat, or don't you know yet?
I've gotten RSVPs from many of you. I'll do a survey again just to make sure that we've got it, but we should have a good number of folks from the board. Right. Okay. I guess we don't need to vote to adjourn, right? 'Cause we can just so anything else?
We're all just gonna get up and leave.
Let's go. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks,
All right.
Sam.
Christina, you look strangely like somebody into LGS.
Yes, we were in the same class.
I know.
You came in at the last meeting. You wanted to do the same thing.
It's great to see you all.
Do we have the RSVP to your office retreat?
Yeah, it was, it was.
You have me on the list?
So I'm doing a very similar thing, but, so I'm a public account. I'm with the student anymore, so.
Oh, so I thought it was for work. This is not that thing we did last year? Remember you had some kind of a treat last year? Oh, this is just for the treat.
Yeah, I got married right after, but, so they're, about to be 10 and about to be 8.
Hey, is this retreat for just the band?
Yeah, so.
That's fine.